Welcome back to the Rose Bros podcast. This episode, we are joined once again by Mike Rutherford, president of Rundle Eco Services, for part 2 of our ongoing conversation. We sat down for a smooth cup of Rose Bros coffee and discussed how Rundle recycled 1 million pounds of plastic, what eco-capitalism means, new companies that are making a profit and helping the environment, shareholder concerns for the environment, good books, and a lot more. Also, we have decided to restart the Rundle Eco-Capitalism podcast series, where the idea is to explore people and companies that are giving back to the environment while also making a profit. Myself and Mike Rutherford hope to cover a handful of companies in the next few months, so stay tuned to learn more about this exciting subject. Also, this week's podcast is brought to you by A1 Media. Looking to grow your business online? A1 can help grow your business through its bundled media packages, including a website, newsletter, social media accounts, e-commerce storefront, or podcast. Let A1 help tell your entrepreneurial story and reach millions of new customers. Check out a1dev.ca today for more details on how you can grow your business. We are recording now.
Giddy up.
I really appreciate you doing this. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, good to see you again.
The last time we spoke was May of 2020. For anyone listening, Mike Rutherford, you are the president of Rundle Eco Services. How are things going?
Things are going good. Yeah, that's with the oil prices and commodity prices back up to a good rate. Business has picked up. Got some other interesting things on the sidelines as well that we're working on, R&D projects that we're just trying to finalize. So very, very potentially impactful and certainly stimulating type of work.
I guess we should mention that we are drinking Rose Bros coffee.
Oh, the smooth Rose Bros.
Cheers.
Cheers. At the crack of noon.
Yeah, some fresh coffee at 12. And we're restarting the Rundle Eco-Capitalism podcast series.
Excellent.
What is the Rundle Eco-Capitalism podcast series?
Originally, when we spoke, we talked about eco-capitalism and what our theory was, which was pretty straightforward. It was you can do the right thing and cash flow at the same time. And in order to solve some of the problems that the environment has, that we believe that not only do you have to do it with environmentalists, but also capitalists. Like anything else in the world, it all boils down to money. When Rundle was started, that was the goal, was to have a company that would be able to be impactful on the environment. At the time, there was millions of pounds of plastic created from the fracking process. Just recap of what Rundle does is that we collect the liners from temporary water reservoirs that are used in the oil business to store water for fracks. And it's a linear low-density polyethylene. Unfortunately, it is a single use, so there was a lot of that material ending up in the landfill because there wasn't really an avenue for recycling other than China. Mm-hmm. And the China thing, as most people know, got shut down in 2017. Update there, it's still not up and running again.
So you can't send your plastic to China, long story short.
Right. Right. And that was easy. Just stuff it in a container and away it go. Yeah. But after that, extreme challenge to find a place and process to clean it mostly, and then process it, and then get it to market.
Yes.
What our goal is to get it to a form that we can then find a end use for, a product that we can make or manufacture. That is really the integrated theory of recycling.
Eco-capitalism.
No, not the, yeah, that ties into the eco-capitalism. But for plastic recycling, that what works best is you collect it, you process it, and then you use it for something yourself in a manufacturing facility. we're still trying to figure out what we're going to make. We did, one of our R&D projects was to make 3D printer filament and then extrude COVID keys. COVID keys were just a sort of a widget.
Maybe just for anyone that does listen, what is extrusion and what is a 3D COVID key?
So extrusion is the material is melted, like a 3D printer, for instance. That's how they create their end product. They melt the filament, and then it gets extruded through a nozzle.
To create some sort of plastic product or any sort of thing that you may want, really.
Right.
Yes.
So it's basically layers.
And the plastic is coming from industrial work sites.
Most of 3D printer filament is virgin resin. But there is now more and more filament that is provided from recycled plastic. We didn't have any that was specific to what our plastic was, so we decided to create our own. And it was successful. And it wasn't so much to produce something or sell the 3D printer filament. It was more to understand the properties of the plastic, what the density was, what the melt flows, just the basic stuff. Mm-hmm. But it also we created a product, COVID key, something you put on your keychain that you can, with a hook, that you can open doors, you can point, use as a pointer for keypads. Proof of concept was an actual something that was marketed, that we knew what the price point was, knew what the manufacturing costs were, and understood and proved that we could, if we did under the right parameters, that if we found something we wanted to make, then we can do it. So that led to more sophisticated material or ideas on manufacturing that been working with the multifunctional composites laboratory at the University of Alberta. And through them, we have an outline for a more advanced program and research that we are just hopefully firing up here in the next month or so. I won't get into it until, I don't want to jinx it, until it's finalized. Mm-hmm. And the material and the product that we're making is going to be unique. So there is some tight hole confidentiality stuff in there. But stay tuned. Mm-hmm. That will be announced and chatted about on another pod later on this summer.
Where does most of Rundle's revenue come from? Is it selling the product, the key, or is it from selling refined plastic down?
We didn't take the COVID key to market.
Okay. We
never ever intended to do that or take the 3D printer filament to market. It was more that if we wanted to, we could, and we knew what the price points were going to be, had a rough idea what the market was going to be.
So right now, most of the revenue is coming from what?
Coming from the collection of the material. We charge basically what the same rates as what the landfills would charge. Mm-hmm. Because the material is tough on landfills, because it would retain water, and it's so, the volume of it is so big, the area of the material is big, you're talking 200 square feet by 200 square feet, that the landfill wants it shredded or cut down into small squares.
So the idea is cheaper to pay, or the same price to pay you guys to take it away as it would be to go to the landfill.
Exactly. Yeah, and it might even be that the landfill costs, the way that the landfill numbers have gone up, we haven't really done a comparison. Might even be a little bit more expensive to go to the landfill. But the landfills do not want it. The municipal landfills definitely don't want it. So it would be the private landfills that have been taking it. And one of the large private landfill secure. They had some issues with it, and word got out, so they charge an arm and a leg to get in there. It has to be in a very small form. They're charging so much money because they just don't want it.
Yes. And Rundle's alternative solution to that.
Correct. And and we work with exploration and production companies as well as the water management companies, and they want to do the right thing. They want to recycle it. They don't want it to go in the landfill. They want to be responsible and very conscientious.
So that's a bit of an update on Rundle. I know that you guys also crossed the 1 million pound mark of recycled plastic.
Right. Yeah, that was a big goal for us last year. We were affected by COVID, like everybody else.
In a good or bad way?
It was in a bad way because of the commodity price deteriorated so badly.
Oil prices go down. That's bad for Rundle.
Right. We are 100% connected to the fracking business. Not 100%. We're actually doing some work for pressure testing of pipelines.
Less activity in the oil and gas field, less work for Rundle.
Less drilling, less fracking, less water.
But 1 million pounds.
1 million pounds, that we thought was an achievable goal. We got there, did a little over 1 million pounds in December. So this year, with the activity levels up, we hope to do 1.5 million pounds. So that was 1 million pounds with going through the cycle of the low oil prices and low activity. Things picked up probably took until late summer before things really picked up. This is our busiest time of year. So typically this is the busiest drilling, fracking time is Q1 till breakup. So I wouldn't say that we're flat out, but we're steady and positive cash flow. So through the COVID time, we did what we had to do, and we managed to lose a little bit of money, but able to stay alive. And now that will take it hopefully to the level that we're going to make some money and provide a return on investment to our shareholders. And that's what the Eco-Capitalism Theory is that you should be able to have a business that's sustainable enough, that has cash flow, that can give investors a decent amount of rate of return. Provide capital to do the right thing. So between 1 million pounds and becoming cash flow positive, then we have proved our theory. So getting back to the Eco-Capitalism Theory in the podcast, the series, through all this process, we've connected to a number of businesses and individuals that they don't call themselves eco-capitalists, but they are. So in the water end of things, we've got some new potential products that we'll be marketing in the water recycling connections, as well as been exposed to eco-capitalism guys that are extracting carbon from biomass that have been operating for a number of years, and they're cash flow positive. That is a really good story. And they've agreed that they're going to come on. We've got probably 4 or 5 really good speakers shows lined up.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Do you notice a lot of guys that have traditionally worked in the energy industry that are moving over to this new avenue, maybe, where you earn some money and try and give back to the environment?
Not really. We're seeing guys that are looking at it because of the environmental social governance, or ESG, mandates and focus, that guys are getting into it, but they're more or less, they're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. One thing that came up yesterday with Terry Edom was his observation that he's noticed people moving in that direction that used to work in traditional energy, just because it seems like there's opportunity there.
Yeah.
And you were like, Rundle was the number one example.
Yeah, we were early into it. And it was before that it was actually called ESG. We knew that something like that was going to be coming down.
Giving back to the environment and actually making money. There's no need for the fancy ESG term.
Well, there's two different types of ESG. Mm-hmm. There's the tangible and there's the intangible.
Right.
And the tangible is a line item on a financial statement. And primarily, right now, that is derived from carbon credits, emissions. Mm-hmm. So companies that can, or carbon capture, guys like Advantage and Whitecap are really, really getting into that. CNRL is starting to. That is tangible.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of that that's out there. Mm-hmm. It's mostly intangible.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for instance, construction, and you're putting down access matting in order to be compliant from any environmental liability. Mm-hmm. I guess it could be called tangible because the reclamation costs would be there if you weren't doing that. Mm. Or on the water end of things, or on the plastic. The plastic is, from a environmental standpoint, is as ESG as you can get. Mm-hmm. To keep 1 million pounds out of the landfill as an industry,
for sure.
That's substantial. That's a big number.
And actually, hopefully make some money doing it.
Yeah, but I'm talking from the end user, that they could claim that as an ESG endeavor, but it's not going to show up on a financial statement. One of the few things the only really things that are that I can see is the emissions controls, carbon capture. ESG is important to public companies because investors of your age and they want that as part of their investment criteria when they're evaluating what the investment is. Is that true for you? Do you look at that?
I might not be the best example, but
I'm sure you've got your friends, you talk about this. And
I think from a capital allocation perspective, strictly speaking, it's not a consideration for me. It's more, when it comes into my perspective, is your own lifestyle decisions. I think that's where it really affects me. That being said, if you can find a company that's helping the environment and making money, then it's perfect, like Rundle.
So if you're evaluating 2 oil companies or 3 oil companies as somewhere that you're going to put non-discretionary investment income into your retirement plan, and they all have the similar debt to equity, cash flow, production, but one has stronger ESG values than the other two.
It's true.
Would you pick that?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. You know who does that, I think, a bit is Tourmaline. They're pretty good at that so far, it seems.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that is certainly what attracts some of the board of directors of these companies.
Right.
That they know that sentiment's only going to get bigger as the demographic evolves and gets older. That in 5 years, that the kids that are in their mid-20s that are just starting their careers now, in 5 years will be more established. They'll be starting families, having a mortgage, and having that non-discretionary capital that they want to put into investments.
Yeah, right.
And they're right now that it's so prevalent and so frontline. It's even going to be more so in 5 years.
Yes. Do you think that if, like you were saying, 2 energy companies were very similar, but one was making the good ESG choices, the other one wasn't, there would be orders of magnitude more investment in the ESG company?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're already seeing that.
Right. The valuations will be higher in the stock market. They'll get more capital, more room for investment.
Exactly. That is kind of eco-capitalism in a way.
Right.
So they want to do the right thing. That's the first and forefront, most important thing,
Right.
is that they want to be responsible.
Yeah.
But they also have the insight that they can see that it could be beneficial for their financial position.
Yeah.
Like what you say, raising capital, getting their equity price up.
Yeah. Do you think it's a challenge to actually do the right thing versus just marketing the right thing? Seems like some companies maybe market it more than they actually do.
Yeah. No, it is a huge challenge because, once again, it boils down to money. That once you get into it, it's a grind. The grind can cost you money. We certainly experience that.
Yeah. It's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. We're still, even though that we've had some return to our shareholders, and we're in the middle of normal small business startups. They have a cycle that you lose money for 18 months. Then you hopefully break even for another 18 months. And then after that, in year 3, that's when you start making money and make up for the losses that you had in the first 18 months. And that's where we're at now. So we're in year 4, going into year 4 with positive cash flow. And we've been able to pay off some of our shareholder loans, but we're confident that we will be able to do that the next year or so. Also, looking at the other opportunities on the R&D, by year 5, then we should have something profitable.
What do you think is the biggest opportunity going forward for Rundle?
Well, definitely the manufacturing, using the material that we collect and process as cheap feedstock. The price of plastic resin is going up. It's linked in with the price of hydrocarbons, primarily gas, so that the virgin resin price is way ahead of what the forecast price was this year. So if you can leverage the cheap feedstock into the right product, then you're going to be competitive on the price end of things.
Because the material you guys have is cheaper than the virgin resin. That's the idea?
Correct. Or even the recycled resin. Right now, the material is processed and sold into the spot market. So even there's not a massive margin on it. But if you're able to save that spread, that's still every penny counts on manufacturing. And it's a good story. You are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It makes it fully integrated from cradle to grave. And whatever you do manufacture, whatever we do decide and figure out to make, when the life of that is done, it will be able to be recycled. That's a huge piece of the parameters going forward.
It's been the biggest challenge for Rundle so far.
Oh, there's been tons of challenges, mostly the economic challenges. That because that you're new at it, and pretty well everybody's new at it, that you get blindsided by things, trial and error, and that costs money. And with the COVID and the volatility in the commodity prices. The other challenge is just, like I said, the Chinese element.
Right.
That we were spoiled.
You could send it over to China.
Right.
Okay.
You didn't have to really be creative. Right. Now you have to be very creative.
What if China started accepting plastic again?
That'll never happen.
Would that be bad for Rundle? Or
Well, by that point, hopefully we're in the manufacturing stage.
Okay.
But it's not going to happen, Trev.
Okay.
They'll never be doing that again.
Never accepting.
No.
Plastic.
And the reason is they were taking the plastic, scrap plastic. And they were taking everything and anything. And whatever they weren't using to recycle and to put in to finished goods, they were burning for electricity. Mm-hmm. And one of the worst things for air quality is burning plastic. Yeah. And that is their biggest concern. Mm-hmm. As the government's biggest concern was air quality. Mm-hmm. And what I understand, it's made a huge difference. But they're never going back there.
Hmm. What are you reading these days?
I got a couple things on the go. Big baseball fan.
Okay.
So reading Moneyball for the second time.
That's a great. I haven't read the book. Great show, though.
I'll give it to you when I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, the book is way better. That's fun. And I read a lot of the periodicals that you download, like The Economist.
Okay.
And then I'm finishing up a book about the fall of Enron.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. What about you? What are you reading?
Atomic Habits. Have you read that one, James Clear?
No.
So it's all about small habits and 1% better, basically, and how it makes a big difference. A good analogy is if you start your plane up and take off in Calgary and you're 1 degree off and your aim is Toronto, you'll end up in, say, New York. And so habits compound and 1 degree differences. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on. So, but that's a good combo.
Yeah, great.
To wrap things up, getting back to the Rundle Eco-Capitalism podcast series, any updates on the next company that we'll feature?
Yeah, the next one that we're going to do is with Polyag, Dan Zimble.
Yes.
They're guys that we've got a business relationship going with, and they are involved with the R&D initiative as well. Then they're recycling grain bags, very similar type of product. And we've been working together for probably 2 years now and just sort of feeding off each other. And they've got a processing facility in Bashaw that is now going pretty good for them. They had similar type of experience with the business cycle. They're going into year 3 now. So they're doing pretty good. And Dan's been around the plastic recycling business, I think, he said 27 years. He's on the board of directors of the Alberta Plastic Recycling Association. This is a great group, do great work.
And that'll be in the next few weeks?
Yeah, he's supposed to do it today, but we got mixed up. And then Corey Dosdell from Ascend Water Management. He's got a green nano technology for recycling water. That's a flocculant for separating oil from water. So it's very important now with tailing ponds, that the tailing ponds have been legislated that they've got a mandate and a timeline to clean those up. So that's what he's working on, looking at doing something, taking some of his product and using it in Rundle. And he's an interesting guy. Yeah, I've talked to some other guys, haven't really confirmed them, haven't had a chance to confirm them. Like to get Jamie from Titan, the guy that's doing the bioplastics. Mm-hmm. He's an environmental engineer. Yep. One of the first to actually graduate in that designation. Yep. He's got positive cash flow, and that's as eco-cap as it can get. Mm-hmm. They're out of Saskatchewan.
I think that's a great combo. A little bit of an update on Rundle and an announcement on the podcast series coming up. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the smooth Rose Bros.
Well, I'm done now. I don't know about you, but...
yeah, I'm just about finished.
That's my 4th coffee today, so... Cheers.
Attaboy. Well, that's more coffee you drink. That's job security.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, check out rosebros.ca, where we will have upcoming shows. Until next time, happy coffee drinking.